She sat so close I could feel the air move when she breathed. Not a word, not even a shift of her chair. Just the faint scent of coffee and her shampoo. That kind that smells like rain on old wood. I kept pretending to focus on the laptop screen, but my hands had stopped moving on the keyboard a long time ago. Elena, my friend's aunt, had said she'd only stay for a minute. That was almost 20 minutes ago. The small apartment was silent except for the soft hum of the ceiling fan. Outside, the rain had slowed, the world wrapped in a pale gray light that made everything look softer. She sat beside me on the couch, her knee angled toward mine, close enough that I could feel the warmth through the fabric of my jeans. "You're awfully quiet when you work," she said, her voice low, amused, like she was watching something she wasn't supposed to. "I talk too much otherwise," I answered, still staring at the screen that hadn't changed in ages. "That's not a bad thing," she said, and then her shoulder brushed mine. Lightly, maybe by accident, maybe not. My pulse stuttered, but I didn't move away. Neither did she. She was in her mid-40s, but there was something ageless about her. The kind of calm that comes from having been through storms and surviving them with a quiet grace. There was a thin gold ring on her right hand, simple and a little loose, turning gently when she fidgeted. Every time her fingers moved, I noticed. "You're writing," she said, nodding toward my laptop. "What's it about?" I exhaled a small laugh. "You wouldn't like it. Try me." Her tone wasn't teasing. It was curious. Or maybe she just wanted to keep me talking. I started to explain, fumbling through half-formed thoughts, and she watched me like she could see the space between every word. There was something unnerving about being seen like that, fully, without judgment, without looking away. When she leaned forward, strands of her hair brushed my forearm. The laptop light reflected faintly off the curve of her cheek. "You're good with silence," she said after a while. "I'm not sure that's true." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe you just listen better than most." That smile lingered. Not wide, not shy, just enough to soften everything in me that had been tense. I don't know if it was the rain or the warmth of the room or just her, but the quiet began to feel like something alive, something we were both inside of, afraid to disturb. I tried to type again to reclaim a bit of distance, but she shifted barely, and her thigh brushed mine. It was nothing. It was everything. "Sorry," she murmured, but she didn't move. I shook my head. "You're fine." The words came out lower than I meant, rough at the edges. Her eyes flicked to mine, quick, questioning, then away. She traced the rim of her coffee mug, her fingers slow, deliberate, her thoughts somewhere else. I don't know how long we sat like that, caught in the stillness, both pretending it was nothing. The world had narrowed to the small gap between us that neither of us seemed ready to widen. Then a sound. The front door clicked open. A voice called from the hallway, her niece's voice. Elena's hand froze mid-motion. Our eyes met, startled, breath caught, something unsaid hanging between us. And in that single second before anyone entered, she whispered, barely audible, "Don't say anything." The next morning, I tried to convince myself it hadn't meant anything. It was easier to believe that when I kept moving, when I made coffee, cleaned the counter, answered emails I didn't care about. But every now and then, I'd see the faint dent on the couch cushion where she'd sat, and everything from last night returned. The warmth, the silence, the way her voice dipped when she said don't say anything. I told myself I wouldn't see her again for a while. Then, late that afternoon, she walked into the bookstore. Elena always had this calm way of entering a room, not trying to be seen, but somehow impossible not to notice. She wore a long gray coat and carried a canvas tote filled with second-hand books. When she saw me behind the counter, she hesitated, just long enough for me to notice that she almost turned around. "You work here," she said, voice light, but her eyes didn't quite match her tone. "Yeah," I said, "since graduation. Pays better than it looks." "I didn't realize this was your place." "It's not," I said, and she laughed softly. That same quiet, unguarded sound that had gotten under my skin the first night we met. She browsed for a while, not really looking at anything. I could tell. Her fingers skimmed over the spines of books she already owned, her attention flickering toward me every few minutes before she pretended to be focused again. Finally, she came to the counter with a single book, a worn copy of Letters to a Young Poet. "Do you read Rilke?" I asked. She nodded. "I used to." Then, after a pause, "My ex-husband hated poetry. Said it made people soft." Her words landed heavier than she meant. I didn't say anything, just watched her thumb the book's edge, her expression somewhere between amusement and ache. "You?" she asked. "I like how his letters feel like confessions," I said. "He writes like he's speaking to someone he shouldn't." She looked up at me then, really looked. "Maybe that's why people read him." Her hand brushed mine as I handed her the receipt. It was accidental, but neither of us moved away this time. Her fingers lingered, warm, hesitant, and then gone. There was something dangerous in the air, and we both felt it. She was my friend's aunt, almost twice my age, someone I should have admired from a distance. But she had that quiet sadness that makes you want to reach out, even when you know better. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said again, but softer now, like she wasn't talking about the bookstore anymore. "I didn't expect you to stay last night," I said. Her breath caught, barely. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, her lips parting in silence. The world outside the window was fading into early evening. Rain streaked the glass, soft and persistent. I wanted to say something honest, something too honest, but before I could, she leaned forward just slightly, her voice almost a whisper. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said. "Like what?" She hesitated. "Like you don't care if it's wrong." For a moment, the only sound was the rain and the faint rustle of pages from somewhere in the store. Then she reached out, brushed a bit of dust from my sleeve, and left her hand there a beat too long. Neither of us moved. It started with a text. "Can you help me fix my laptop?" Elena's message came late, almost 10:30, the kind of hour when saying yes already means something else. I told myself it didn't, that it was innocent, but I was already putting on my jacket before I'd finished typing back sure. Her place smelled faintly of citrus and paper, the scent of someone who reads too much and cleans too little. She opened the door in a loose cardigan, her hair pulled up in a way that looked accidental but wasn't. "The keyboard's acting up," she said, stepping aside to let me in. The laptop sat on the table, lid open, screen frozen mid-sentence. But it wasn't the laptop that made my throat tighten. It was the half-empty glass of wine beside it, the single chair pulled too close to the one she motioned toward for me. I sat down. The silence between us was warm, humming. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice quiet enough that it barely reached me. "No problem." Her hand brushed mine as she leaned forward to point at the screen. "See? It just stops here." "Yeah?" I murmured, my fingers hovering near hers. "Might just need a reset." She didn't move her hand. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the ticking of the small kitchen clock, each second louder than it should have been. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. A message preview lit the screen. "How's Noah doing? He's still around." Her niece. Elena's eyes darted toward the phone, then to me. The air between us shifted sharp, aware, like a curtain had been pulled back too far. I looked away first. "You should answer that." "She doesn't need to know everything," she said, a touch too fast. "Elena, I mean," she interrupted, her tone softening, "we're not doing anything wrong." The way she said "we" made my pulse trip. She moved around me to grab her glass, close enough that her shoulder brushed the back of my neck. The warmth of her skin lingered after she stepped away. "You're quiet again," she said. "So are you." "I'm trying not to be stupid." I turned to face her. "And is this stupid?" Her eyes lifted steady, searching. And for the first time, she didn't look away. She stepped closer, her breath catching. My hands hovered near her waist before I thought better of it. The space between us was a heartbeat wide, maybe less. "You're too young to look at me like that," she whispered. "Then stop looking back," I said before I could stop myself. Her lips parted, her eyes flicked down. A fraction, but I saw it. The kind of glance that means don't move, don't ruin this. And then a knock at the door. Both of us froze. Her niece's voice again, muffled through the wood. "Aunt Elena? You home?" Elena's hand found my wrist. Quick, firm. The same way someone steadies a falling glass. "Don't say anything," she whispered again, barely breathing the words. The door handle turned, then stopped. Silence. After a long pause, footsteps receded down the hall. Elena exhaled, finally letting go. But neither of us stepped back. The next time I saw her, neither of us pretended it was by accident. She came to the bookstore again. No coat this time, just a loose blouse that looked too soft for the cold outside. The moment I saw her, everything I tried to bury over the last few days came flooding back. "Are you free after this?" she asked quietly, after browsing for only a minute. I nodded before thinking. We walked without speaking down the street past the cafe to the small park tucked behind the library. Evening light spilled gold through the trees. The air smelled like rain again, though the sky was still clear. She sat on a bench and crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. I stayed standing, watching her for a beat too long. Finally, she said, "You've been avoiding me. I thought maybe you wanted me to." "I didn't." She looked up. "I don't." The honesty in her voice hit something deep, something dangerous. "Elena," she shook her head. "Don't. I know what you're thinking, and you're right." "About what?" "That this shouldn't feel the way it does." Her words hung in the air, fragile, trembling. She looked away, her jaw tightening like she was trying not to say more. "I'm not used to this," she said finally. "Wanting something I shouldn't." I sat beside her. The bench creaked softly. Our knees brushed. She didn't move away. "You talk like it's wrong," I said. "Isn't it?" "No," she laughed under her breath, shaking her head, but her eyes glistened, not from amusement. "You're young. You don't understand the weight of things yet." I leaned in slightly, my voice low. "Then teach me." Her breath caught. A small sound, almost a gasp. My hand moved before I could think, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She closed her eyes as my fingers brushed her skin. Her pulse fluttered just below her jaw. "Elena," I whispered. When she opened her eyes, they were different, soft but wrecked, like something inside her had given up fighting. "This can't," she started, but her voice broke halfway through. "Then tell me to stop." She didn't. Instead, she reached for my hand, hesitant, trembling, and pressed it between both of hers. Her thumb traced the back of my knuckles, slow, deliberate. "I haven't felt this," she said almost to herself. "Not in years." "Then don't pretend you don't want it." Her eyes met mine, wide, unguarded, afraid of her own honesty. "You don't know what you're doing to me." "I think I do." A tear slipped down her cheek. Not sadness, not joy, something in between. I brushed it away with my thumb, and she leaned into the touch, just enough for her breath to warm my wrist. We were too close now, the kind of closeness that makes the world fall quiet. Her lips parted. My heartbeat stuttered. She leaned forward, and the streetlight above us flickered, humming loud enough to pull her back. Her breath hitched. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "If we cross this line, we can't go back." I whispered back, just as quiet, "Then maybe we don't." The next day, she didn't come by. Neither did the one after that. I told myself it was for the best. That the park, the near kiss, the trembling silence between us, all of it had been a line we weren't supposed to cross. But silence has a way of growing teeth. By the third night, I couldn't stop replaying it. The way her breath brushed my skin. The way she'd whispered no like it was both mercy and punishment. Then, near closing time, the bookstore door opened, and it wasn't her. It was her niece. "Hey," she said, cheerful, unaware. "You've seen my aunt lately?" My chest tightened. "Not recently." She smiled. "She talks about you a lot. Says you're helping her get back into writing again." "Writing?" I repeated. "Yeah," she said, lowering her voice like it was a secret. She's been drafting some kind of, I don't know, story? Or letters. Said they're inspired by someone new in her life. I tried to breathe, but the air felt heavier suddenly. Did she say who? Her niece grinned. Didn't have to. After she left, I stood there, hands gripping the counter. Letters. Inspired by someone new. The realization came slow. Not shame exactly, but something close. I wasn't supposed to matter like that. By the time I reached her apartment, my pulse was racing. I knocked once, twice. She opened the door wearing the same gray cardigan from before, her hair down this time. She looked startled but not surprised. Noah, you've been writing about me? She blinked, thrown off balance. Who told you that? Does it matter? She exhaled slowly. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Her hands twisted together, nervous, a rare thing for her. It's how I process things. When I don't know what to do with what I feel, I write. So you felt something? She hesitated, just long enough for the truth to settle before she answered. Yes. The word hit like a confession. She took a step closer, the air between us crackling. You shouldn't have come. Why? Because someone might find out. Because I might not stop this time. Her voice broke on the last word. The distance between us vanished. My hand brushed her arm, then her shoulder. She didn't pull away. Her breath trembled. Mine matched it. For a heartbeat, she leaned into me, her forehead almost touching my chin. Then she stepped back sharply, her hands shaking. You don't understand, she whispered. My sister, her mother. She knows something's different. If she finds out, Elena, I interrupted. You can't keep running from what's already happening. She closed her eyes, chest rising fast. You make it sound simple. It is. It's only us in the room. Her eyes opened again, and I saw it. That same storm she tried to hide since the first night. Want, guilt, fear all tangled together. Then she said something I didn't expect. I wrote you a letter, she whispered. It's on the table. My gaze shifted. A folded sheet of paper lay there, her handwriting unmistakable. Read it, she said. Then decide if you still want to see me again. Her voice cracked halfway through, quiet, final. She brushed past me to the door, close enough for her hair to graze my jaw. Please, she whispered. Just lock it behind you. And then she was gone. Leaving the letter, the scent of her perfume, and a question I didn't know how to answer. I unfolded the letter slowly, my fingers trembling despite myself. Her handwriting curved across the page, uneven and honest. The words carrying the weight of months she'd tried to hide. I don't know if this is right. I don't know if it can ever be safe. But I can't pretend anymore. I see you. I always have. And now I don't want to look away. The words hit me like a pulse in the chest, a rush of warmth and fear. I folded the letter, pressed it against my lips, and looked up to find her standing in the doorway. Her eyes met mine, wide, searching, almost fragile. The storm in them was the same one that had kept me awake at night. Desire, fear, and a fierce kind of vulnerability I couldn't resist. I read it, I said, voice low, hoarse from tension. Her lips parted just slightly. And I stepped closer. The air between us shrank with every heartbeat. My hand hovered, trembling, over the curve of her arm. Her breath hitched when my fingers brushed her sleeve. You don't have to, she whispered. I want to, I said barely above a breath. Her hands found my chest, light, almost testing. Her eyes dropped to my lips and back to mine, asking, pleading, warning. I swallowed, felt the weight of her caution and the pull of her want in the same breath. I've waited too long, she murmured. I closed the distance, our foreheads nearly touching, and felt the warmth of her skin against mine. The world outside had fallen away. No rain, no bookstore, no niece, just the two of us suspended in a quiet, charged impossibility. Promise me, she whispered, voice trembling. If we do this, it's honest. No pretending. I promise, I said, pressing my hand gently to her cheek. The touch was soft, grounding, an anchor in the storm of emotion between us. Her eyes closed, and I felt her lean into me, the faintest shiver running through her. Our breaths mingled, heartbeats echoing like drums in the silence. For a moment we stopped, inches apart, suspended in the tension that had been building since the first night she sat too close. The decision was simple, impossible, frightening, and inevitable all at once. I whispered her name. "Elena," I said again, and she responded with a trembling inhale. The space between us disappeared as she leaned into me fully. Hands, hearts, and hesitation collided, raw and unpolished. It was messy, it was human, and it was exactly what we both needed. And in that closeness, in the quiet heat of that suspended moment, everything became clear. We didn't need to speak. Every hesitation, every fear, every unspoken question had found its answer. We were here, together. The morning after, sunlight spilled across the small apartment, dust motes dancing in the golden light. She was in the kitchen, half asleep, coffee in hand. I watched her from the doorway for a long moment. The curve of her shoulder, the way her hair caught the light, the soft exhale she didn't realize she'd released. "Elena," I said softly. She turned, eyes blinking awake, and smiled that quiet, knowing smile that had drawn me in from the start. "You're staring," she teased, but it was gentle, playful. "I'm not," I said, stepping closer. "I'm noticing." Her laugh was low, warm, filling the space between us. I closed the distance, brushing a hand across hers as she held the mug. Her fingers didn't flinch. We didn't speak for a while, just leaned into each other, hands finding hands, the simple act of closeness enough. No words could match it, no assurances necessary. Finally, she rested her forehead against mine. "It's strange," she said. "Younger, older, reckless, careful. All the things that make this feel impossible." "It doesn't feel impossible," I whispered. "It feels like us." Her lips curved into a half smile, half sigh. "I was scared," she admitted, "of wanting something I shouldn't, of losing control." "I know," I said, tightening my hand around hers. "I was too." For a long moment we just held that space, the tension finally melting into quiet warmth. Every fear, every hesitation, every doubt that had hovered between us felt smaller now, diminished by proximity, by honesty, by trust. She leaned back slightly, still holding my hand, and gestured toward the couch. "Sit with me." I did, and for the first time, there was no pretense, no restraint. Just the two of us, close, hearts beating out the same rhythm, fingers intertwined like it had always been meant to be. She rested her head on my shoulder, soft against me, warm and real. I draped an arm around her, holding her in a careful, reverent way, as if memorizing every curve, every shiver, every fleeting smile. "You're here," she said softly. "And I'm not going anywhere," I replied. She lifted her head, eyes meeting mine, and pressed a brief, tender kiss to my forehead. A small gesture, but it carried years of longing, hesitation, and unspoken confessions. We didn't need more. The space between us was gone, replaced by an intimacy that was quiet, messy, human, perfect in its imperfection. I tightened my arm around her again, and she leaned in, sighing against me. The sunlight warmed us, and in that simple, shared moment, everything felt settled. We were together, finally, without apologies, without fear, just us. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?